Talk about it with Franjez. Today's special guest is an amputee firefighter, ISSA Certified Personal Trainer. He rescues animals, runs a farm, and much more. We're going to learn all today. Today's guest is Jason Bernstein. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming this way. Where'd you come from?
I came from Bridgeport. That's where I've been staying right now. So.
Yeah, Connecticut, there's always traffic.
Yeah.
I never go to Connecticut because of that reason.
Yeah.
Unless it's something I need to go or it's like something that's worth going, but the drive is always, it's annoying.
Yeah, it can be tedious.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's start right from the beginning. Where were you born?
So I was actually born in Stamford.
Okay.
1984. So millennial, and moved up to Reading when I was 10, 11 years old and lived there for the last 25 years. And then moved around a little bit in between places, and I had moved down to South Carolina for the last 5 years.
Really?
Yes. Yep,
all right. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
What was your childhood like? What were you into? What kind of kid were you?
Yeah, so my childhood was it was a lot of fun growing up. My dad was a fireman at Turner River in Stamford. So, I spent plenty of time there growing up as a kid, and it's kind of what I always wanted to be, and just kind of groomed for that path and followed in my dad's footsteps, and everything, growing up was fireman this, fireman that, fire trucks. Loved playing outside, just had a pretty normal childhood, growing up. So ended up just following my dad's footsteps.
Nice.
Yeah.
As a kid, did he want you to be a firefighter, or did he want better for you?
I think he wanted me to just be happy. Okay. And if that was following firefighting, then that's, that was what was meant for me. So, and I gravitated towards it. I loved it. I love to tinker and mess with things. And that's what a lot of firefighting is, very hands-on. So I just kind of gravitated towards it. I always loved the lights and the trucks and the sirens. I mean, who doesn't, love being able to blow red lights and hit the horns and make a lot of noise while doing it, So
nice.
Being a fireman, you just kind of never grow up kind of deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So as a kid, you want to be a firefighter. So you know what it takes to become a firefighter, right?
Yes, sir.
So as a kid, what is it? It was just high school diploma, or what are the qualifications?
Yeah. So really for firefighting, even these days, it's mostly GED, high school diploma, that'll get you in. But I took it a step further. I went to college at the University of New Haven for fire science and fire investigation with a minor in criminal justice. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And while I was there, I had, some really unique experiences. I was able to do some firsts. Led me into the world of fire marshaling and code enforcement, fire investigations, and kind of honed that skill over time. And it really is a skill because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with their livelihoods. So, you come out of the gate, you're kind of like, you have that enforcement background. You're like, well, things are kind of this way. And so I think you kind of come off more authoritarian when you're younger. And as you get older, it's like, well, this doesn't work as well, so you kind of start morphing how you deal with the public and end up becoming more empathetic over time, to be able to really help people and, help them through things. Because sometimes, people don't know. There's so much when you open a business. There's so much to get into. And, sometimes you're just bombarded by everything. You just need some help and some guidance. So that's kind of like how I morph things over the years, is to be more helpful and help people set them up for success in that job as well,
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So what age could you get the fireman job?
So you could really, depending on where you are.
Well, you were specifically going for Stanford, right?
So I was involved with Stanford as a volunteer. Over at Turner River. Yeah.
It's only volunteer there?
So no, Stanford's a combination city, and that's kind of morphed over the years too. The main city is protected by the city fire department, and volunteers nowadays do more supplemental work.
Okay.
So there's plenty of opportunities, and it's great to get involved with a volunteer if that's the way you want to go in life as a young individual, to get involved with the fire department, because they pay for all your certifications usually. So now you can come out with, you join as a volunteer when you're 16, and you can get certified when you're 18. And then when you take the exams for different places, usually having, your certifications, firefighter 1, firefighter 2, EMT, and some others, not only do they set you ahead in the interview and the process, they also give you extra points for having those certifications on the exams.
Nice.
Yeah.
So 18 is when you can?
18 is when you can start scooping up your certifications, depending on where you are. Some places kind of have they work with, a sect of the Boy Scouts. So they have you can join at 14 sometimes.
Oh, okay.
And then you get that experience. You get to learn how everything works. Get your hands on some stuff sometimes. But once you're 18, then you can go out and get your certifications. Then you can start going in the fires. You can start really showing up and doing a lot more once you're 18, getting your hands dirty. But then you have places like Darien, who runs Post 53, the Explorer Posts. That's a section of Boy Scouts. And anyone can go do that. And I think as young as 14, maybe. I could be totally wrong. I think it's maybe even younger, but it's around that age they start getting their EMT certifications, and they start riding the ambulance. And so that sets people up too, to really get into it and figure it out.
Really early, yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep.
So what was your process like?
My process was,
what was junior high school like? Anything involving your career path?
Yeah. So, junior high, middle school is kind of, I guess, run of the mill for everybody, not kind of, just going to a firehouse with my dad, on weekends and stuff like that growing up. My mom was in EMT. She worked for Stanford Hospital, Greenwich GMS. So a lot of different exposures everywhere to emergency services. So yeah, middle school was pretty run of the mill, I'd say. I actually went to Villa Maria in Stanford, which specializes in learning disabilities, because I have dyslexia, ADD, reading and math comprehension. So I struggled, in the beginning, figuring out all that stuff. So Villa Maria really helped kind of set me and put me in the right direction to be able to understand education for me.
You feel like it was helpful?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Oh, nice.
100%. When I got to high school was a little rougher. It was kind of like in the beginning times of, special education, and what do you do with these kids who learn differently? So, no fault to the high school, really. I just don't think the information and the research was there at the time. So, they used to take, special ed kids and kind of just stick them all together and let them do their own thing. And I really don't think I learned, unfortunately, what I needed to learn in high school, how to study my techniques, what works for me. They were focused on the high achievers in that school a lot.
Absolutely.
So when I got to college, it was like a complete shock. And it's like, what do I do? And I wasn't doing well either. I also kind of struggled with different addictions as well during that time. So trying to figure all that out, figure out my way, some trauma and abuse stuff going on too. And it's like, what do you do with all that? And, I got sober in college actually. And you can see, it's interesting.
I would love to dive deep into that story.
Yeah.
If you're okay with sharing, what was the addiction?
So yeah, my addiction, just drugs and alcohol, just kind of regular daily use kind of thing. And my life got out of control, and, it served a purpose.
At the time you were just numbing yourself
from the trauma that I was experiencing.
Not even being able to function in college the way you wanted to.
Right. And, I was still getting okay grades. I guess you would call it like semi-high functioning. I wasn't passing necessarily, but, I was fortunate enough early on to figure out that there was this thing called a withdrawal. So if you weren't doing well, and I always at least showed up to my classes. So the professors, I guess they would probably feel bad and say, well, he's showing up, but he's not passing. So I'll give him the withdrawal. So my GPA never dipped below the point where they threw me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They just changed your classes or something like that?
Yeah. So I would just remove myself from the class if I wasn't passing it. And that was that. I would just retake the class the next year.
So in high school, college, this time, are you working towards the fire?
Yeah. So
Certificates or
I was
anything?
in EMT at the time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
When did that happen? During high school, after high school?
yeah, summer, probably end of high school.
Okay.
That summer, I think I took my EMT. So like 01 maybe.
Nice.
Yeah. 02.
You can get that job, what, at 18, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Yeah. You can start working for companies as soon as you get your EMT. So I did, the typical route. I worked for, basic transport service. And that's where I got injured actually with this, not at the ambulance service, but around that time. I think the injury
Really? It
happened
early on.
Yeah.
I assume that has to do with the firefighting.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
during an EMT job?
Well, I was, no, it was around that time I was working as an EMT.
Okay.
But it happened at the volunteer firehouse.
Wow.
Yeah. In December of, I think the injury was December of 04. So I was going to college. I was working as an EMT. I was trying to figure out like addiction and getting sober and everything. So, my brain was kind of like all over the place. And I just probably wasn't, as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's focused as I should have been,
Yeah. So while you're doing all these things, you're also going towards becoming a firefighter? You're working towards that?
Yep.
Getting certificates and stuff
Yeah.
like that?
I had, as soon as I graduated high school and went into college, I started my firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. Excuse me. So I did that. So by probably the end of 02, 03, I was a fully certified firefighter by then.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
So take us down that tragic day.
Yeah.
How
It was in December. It was in December of 04. We got called out for a CO alarm, and I had my air pack on, my gear, tools in my hands, flashlight. So
Were you
well
sober?
over 90 pounds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was working towards getting sober. So I may have not been, I was at the firehouse. So obviously there was nothing in my system at that point. I wouldn't ever go around there with stuff in my system. So, but yeah, I was volunteering and staying there, and I stepped off the truck with all that weight and everything, and I sprained my ankle. But I tore all the ligaments, tore all the tendons, and damaged the cartilage. So it was a long recovery process. And a few years later in 06, I was having some issues with it, and went to go see the surgeon, and they were like, well, let's do a debridement on the ankle. So we went in, did a debridement. And
What's debridement?
So that's where they do some imagery beforehand, and they determine, okay,
like a CAT scan type inside?
Yeah, I think it was an MRI actually.
Right.
And they determined that, the joint's not as smooth as it could be. And it's not functioning properly. So they go in.
In this time, what are you feeling? Like what you're able to walk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just
pain
in the ankle?
Yeah, it was just, some pain when I would walk and stuff like that. And, obviously at the age of, what was I then? Probably 04 to 06, I was probably 20 to 22. So, you shouldn't be having pain at that age like that. So the surgeon was like, yeah, we'll go in and we'll clean up the joint for you. They go in orthoscopically and kind of remove all of the, I guess, unhappiness in there and make the joint smooth and round again. And usually you get up and after a little bit and go on your way. But I had some issues and the joint ended up fusing itself.
And that just happened on its own?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was in a restrictive walking boot for a little too long, I think. There were some issues with PT and stuff, so it didn't go as well as it probably could have gone. No fault to anybody. It's kind of the process that I guess I was embarked on.
It's the way your body reacted to it.
Yep. So what essentially happens is bone spurs form around the joint, and that's what fuses the ankle and keeps it from moving. So I spent like 10 years kind of like figuring out, what do I do? Because there was a lot of pain involved in that afterwards.
10 years.
Yeah, the joint doesn't function properly, essentially. I went to, the top surgeons all over the place, down in New York, Connecticut, Boston, wherever. And, I was very fortunate that it was actually a workers' comp case. They take really good care of me. They might push back on certain things at times, but, ultimately I get what I need from them. It did allow me to, because it was a workers' comp case, and it started in 2004 and, the surgery in 2006. So it really allowed me, I was fortunate. I didn't really need to work through college because it was a workers' comp case. So I was getting benefits from them while being able to finish up college at the same time.
So while you're still finishing up with college and you're getting your workers' comp, you're still going towards the same career path. You're still working too,
Yes.
EMS?
Yeah. No, I wasn't working at the time.
That's what the workers' comp is from, the EMS job.
From the fire department.
Okay. Even though it was volunteer at the time, right?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, and
nice.
that's a nice thing about like volunteers. You're still
nice.
covered by by the fire department, by their insurance, by their workers' comp. So
That's awesome.
yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. So college and then no working at all. You're still going to college though.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was it's for every, like, in a way, it seems like for everything that happens, it may not be the best. There's silver linings to it in places,
Absolutely.
So while the injury led to this and everything, it's like, well, I have my college degree because, I didn't have to work. I didn't have to.
You could focus more.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
So it ended up helping a lot.
So you're in college. You have the same career path. You know something's wrong with your ankle.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of changing your career path at all? Or are you thinking, no, I'm going to be a full-time firefighter still?
No, so that's like the crazy part. I just kind of got into that tunnel vision, I guess. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be a fireman still. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to let anything hold me back.
Because it's just pain at the time, right? You can still walk?
Right, yes.
You're in the boot?
Yeah.
During college?
Yep. During college, I spent a year in the restrictive walking boot. And then it was kind of like, this is a little crazy. So I just kind of one day I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I do want to get back. Like, I don't want to be on workers' comp. Like, so I just took the boot off one day and started walking around. I was like, oh, okay, things are fine. And called workers' comp. Like, hey, I can get a job now. So like came off workers' comp and everything. And, started working part-time and everything.
What were you doing?
I think I went back to the ambulance for part-time stuff. Just, kind of like odd jobs here and there. Work all over the place doing different things. So.
And you were okay with the boot off?
Yeah.
It was just pain?
Yeah, it was just pain. If I did too much or went too far in a day, I love to hike and rock climb and all sorts of stuff like that. But if I did too much in one day, I knew my recovery process afterwards. I could hike. I could go on hikes 11, 12, 14 hours, no problem. The problem was when I stopped. It was just overcome with pain, usually crawl around the house for the next day. And then, the day after that, feeling a little bit better recovery. And then on the third day, doing a lot better.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Since we're finishing up with college, I want to talk about those degrees. I never heard of these degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Fire marshaling was one of them?
So it's a certification.
Okay.
Yes. So while I was in college, I was very fortunate. I worked with one of my professors. And I was sober at this point. So
Good.
You could see my grades jump. You can see, if you look at my transcript, you can see when I got sober, it's funny, It's like, wow, I'm actually a decent student,
Nice.
Yeah. So I went from like C's to like A's and B's, which was really exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I was working with one of my professors who taught the state investigation class. And he said that during class, he goes, I give you all the same exact class. So I came up to him afterwards. I was like, hey, if you're giving me the same class as the state of Connecticut, can I challenge the test? He was like, let me look into that for you. So he went back and forth. I'm actually going to take this off. Sitting too long, it kind of like gives pressure on the end of the bone. So it feels good to take it off.
Nice.
So I was working with this professor and He's like, yeah, you should be able to do this. But the state was like, no, they were very against it. You know, they were very, this is our program and you have to go through us, and back and forth. So the state was, they finally worked out a deal, and he says, you know what? He can pass the test. Let him challenge it. And the state said, he's not going to pass our test. And he goes, okay, I'll make you a deal. If he passes the state exam, then everybody graduating from the University of New Haven from this program henceforth gets to pass with the investigation module from the state of Connecticut and that certification. So he knew I would pass the test. I knew I would pass the test. So it was a lot of studying, a lot of work with him, a lot of back and forth. And I ended up nailing the test and getting a really good grade on it. Nice. So now everybody graduating through that program from the University of New Haven now gets that state certification as well.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and since then they've opened it up to more certifications as well. So it was a really great experience, and I was really excited that I was able to offer that to the school. You know, that the timing worked out and everything, and that I was able to do that. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what exactly is fire marshaling?
So fire marshaling is a combination of code enforcement, business continuity planning, emergency planning, and fire investigation.
Okay, so the first part was when a business is about to open, you go in and make sure it's safe. That type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So excuse me, we'll go in. Well, first thing, it depends. If you're building from ground up, brand new, we'll get all those plans and we'll go through them just as much as an engineer would, make sure that everything's proper on those plans. If there's anything wrong on those plans, we'll return them to the architect. And then the architect will, you know, it's either a back and forth or it's, oh, wow, we made a mistake. Let's fix that. And we'll get it right.
I see.
And then, you know, obviously they start building. We come in, we do the inspections during the build so we can see behind the walls and everything, make sure everything's done to the code to both prevent fire, prevent catastrophe. So it's not just fire, you know, it's there's seismic things that have to be done, wind ratings, all sorts of stuff that have to be done to a building ground up. And then what we do also is, you know, regular inspections after the building's built.
Okay.
To make sure that, you know, for instance, you wouldn't think about it, but when you set up your cook line in your restaurant, the fire suppression nozzles are above everything. So if you want to move your cook line around and change that,
you have to move the fire.
Correct. And a lot of people don't take that into account. They're just, oh, I can move stuff wherever I want. And it's like, well, the system was set up this way. So now we either have to put things back or rework the system. So it's you know, it's a lot of working with businesses, and I try to work with the businesses and be like, hey, if you're going to do something, just call me first and let's talk about it. I don't necessarily say I'm going to be against it, but let's just make sure things are right.
Do it the right way.
Right.
It might actually save you money in the long run.
Exactly.
Do it the right way the first time.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's part of business continuity planning, you know,
Absolutely.
Making sure that you do things the right way so that if, God forbid, something happens, your business isn't down for very long at all.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing that you do to fire prevention is huge. And the fire prevention happens in all sorts of ways. Those inspections that we do, going out, talking to people, writing articles, doing, you know, getting out in front of the public, explaining things, live enactments and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, helping people to really understand like what fire is and what it can do, and you know, how to save your own home too. You know, I've been in fires where you see people, because they've taken the right steps, such as putting all their memorabilia in plastic bins, you know, and they had a fire on the first or second floor and all the water went into the basement, but everything was in plastic bins and sealed. So everything was savable. And people who didn't know about that stuff and end up losing everything, you know, and it's sad. It's tough when that happens. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So the investigations, let's talk about that. What's that like, fire investigations? After a fire happens, you investigate why it happened, the cause?
Yeah, cause and origin. So that's what we're looking for when we investigate fire. And you just kind of, you know, you use the scientific approach and you kind of go through that, develop your hypothesis, prove yourself wrong or prove yourself right. And
tell us a little bit about that, because I never even heard a story before of how you find the fire. I'm assuming it's like where the most burning is?
Yeah, that's
where
exactly
started.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. So you could do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep. I'm out of a job now. You figured it out that quickly. You need to cancel
that's just the
this.
location,
Yeah.
not the cause, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's happened here. Now we got to figure out what caused it right here.
Right.
Is it the outlet? Is it the heater? Is it?
Yep. And there's all different sorts of things that point us in that direction too. It's really looking at everything and taking all the clues in, and there's signs all throughout that point directly to where the fire happened. So it's like you said, you go from the least burned area to the most burned area. That's typically where you'll find within that your cause.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you don't.
Really?
Yeah. Or if you're not
companies
100%,
don't like that.
Yeah.
They want to know.
Right. And they'll send out their own investigators too. And, sometimes you can work together. Sometimes you just disagree. So, for me, if I'm not 100%, it gets marked as, oh geez, I just blanked on the word. I had it in my head. Undetermined. So, and that allows me to say, maybe I see some evidence in photos later, or working with the professional insurance investigators and the people who rebuild fire scenes. Maybe we do find that cause, because I can usually find the origin, but sometimes the cause can be more difficult. Fire destroys stuff. So it makes it very difficult.
Destroys the evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's still plenty left over, which does make it easier. But you always can't get there sometimes. So you mark it as undetermined, which allows you to go back later and say, we did determine the cause. And this is it. But once you mark the fire, you say, this was, due to electrical or carelessness or, open flame, open heat source. It's hard. You can't really go back and redefine your cause. So, but it's a really unique process. It can be very tedious at times because you're ending up with hundreds of pictures, sometimes even more on bigger scenes. And, you have to document all those.
Oh, yeah.
And, when you have dyslexia and you're looking at the camera, the camera readout, and you're on photo like 302, and your photo investigation list is on like 305 or 298. And now you're like, oh no, where did I go wrong with the numbers? Now you're going back all the way up those photos to see where I did the wrong input to get it right back to normal. And now you have to renumber them. So
correct me if I'm wrong. Dyslexia is when you switch numbers and letters.
So dyslexia can be different. I know there's different types. For me, my dyslexia is I could be looking at the number 305 for all day long. And that number says 305. Somebody else comes around and they're like, no, Jason, that's 315. And I'm like, I look back at it. All of a sudden it's 315. It's like, okay, like that's how that happened. Or for me, I have a lot of transcribing issues. So when I'm taking tests and I get to the bubble lists, it's the same thing. I'll be on question 98 on the test, but on the bubble list, I'm either back 2 questions or forward 2 questions. And it's like, I have no clue how it happened or where it happened now.
That's horrible for test taking.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, I have educational accommodations where I can write directly in the test book. And nowadays, with everything being online, most tests are online and on the computer. So it makes it a lot easier.
Nice.
Yeah.
Has there been AI implementation to fire investigations or anything? I feel like AI could also help.
I think we're getting there.
Nice.
The thing with fire investigation, everything has to be proven in court. So for the longest time, I think it was just before I really got into fire investigation, all the photos had to be black and white.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. You know why?
Because for some reason they felt that color photos were too easily manipulated. And I don't think the quality was there in the early 2000s and late 90s yet on the color photography as opposed to black and white. So everything for the longest time did have to be in black and white until like that started changing in like the mid 2000s. The courts and the professionals started accepting color photos because the quality started getting better in them. So I think, yeah, I think we're probably around the corner with AI. I know it's being used in, fire modeling and all sorts of stuff right now. So, fire modeling is where you essentially input all your information and you recreate your fire and you recreate the situation through a program. So I'm sure people are already using AI for that. So I'm sure we're not far along from it being involved in that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the college certifications. What happens next? You graduate college?
Yes, I graduated college.
And what was the degree from college?
My degree is in fire science.
Fire science.
Yep, with a specialty in arson investigation.
Okay.
Excuse me, which has changed to fire investigation, because the courts were saying, well, you're an arson investigator, you're trained to only look for arson. And it's
crimes only, but it's not crimes only. It's all types of fires.
Right. And it's like, no, it's just a term that's used. So they've changed the term from arson investigation now to fire investigation to kind of match what's happening, because it is so much more than arson.
Absolutely.
Arson is just such a small part of what we do.
Absolutely.
And it's a rare part of what we do too. But it is a unique specialty, and it's something you're trained to look at, and because it's devastating. Arson can be devastating. I mean, we see what happens with a careless cigarette out west.
Absolutely.
And you change that out to arson, and now it's even worse. So,
so you get this, and what was with this certificate and graduate or diploma? What do you call it?
It's not
diploma. What's it called? Is it a certificate?
Yeah, I can't think of the word right now.
College certificate?
My college degree.
Degree. All right.
Yeah,
so
there we go.
With the certificate and the degree.
We can make this work together.
Yeah. I'm learning with you here. What job? You still trying to be a firefighter or something deeper than that? Like when it comes to firefighting, I really don't know this. Is there like firefighter and then like for example, there's police and then there's detectives.
Right.
Is there firefighters and then the detective version of that?
Yeah. So that's what a fire marshal is essentially.
I see. Would you work for, let's say, Stanford Fire, or is that a whole different department?
So it's different around the country, and it's kind of different around different departments as well. So
what was your goal for Stanford, or what
my goal was really to go anywhere that would take me.
Okay.
And that's kind of always been my, I guess, goal, is just start with whoever's willing to work with me and give me an opportunity, give me a chance. So I ended up out of college getting a job with New Milford as their deputy fire marshal. So I learned a lot there. It was a really great experience. That's where I kind of I had a rough start there, because I did come out, you come out of college, you have that arrogance about you, I guess. You think you know more than you actually do. So I kind of had more of that authoritarian mindset of, well, this is the fire code and this is what the fire code says. And fire code is actually, for the most part, it is pretty black and white. It says what you shall do. And if you go above and beyond, you still have to meet the code when you go above and beyond. And if there's deficiencies, you need to bring them up to deficiencies. Having that kind of mindset of the fire code kind of gave me a rough start. But it was a really great experience, because I did get to work with, some state fire marshals who kind of took me under their wing, and other local fire marshals too, just through knowing people. And it's kind of working in that finesse of working with the people, not necessarily, yes, the fire code does say this, but, if I can get you to follow the fire code through education and through explaining it and letting you know why it's so important, it becomes so much easier at that point, because now you understand my job. Now you understand what's happening and why your building needs to be upgraded. If you have deficiencies and you have, apartments above, let's say, a restaurant, anything can happen bad in a restaurant real quick with the gas lines, the cooktops. So you really want to prevent fire, especially if there's living spaces above that. So, because a fire at that point could not only displace your business, it could displace people and lead to deaths.
Absolutely.
So, when we start talking about things like that, people are kind of more on board and easier to get on board.
Absolutely. So entry level, what's going on? There's no academy. It's just straight from college. You can get that job.
So you can. So it depends where you go. Some places you turn 18, you go get and zero experience, you go take a civil service exam, which is going to ask you a whole bunch of mechanical question, math questions, kind of all over the place. More SAT style stuff, but not as intense.
And then academy.
Yes. So then you would take that test. You would go to an oral interview. Sometimes there's a couple interviews, and then
psychological. All that.
Sometimes
medical.
Yeah.
I was a state correctional officer.
Yeah.
So I know it's similar to become a firefighter, but your way sounds so different with college.
Yeah, my way is a lot different. It's not necessary for the fire service. But for me, I kind of wanted that bump ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the investigation. I really liked the code enforcement side of things. So, the college degree really comes in handy with the fire investigation, right? Because you have to be courtroom ready, essentially.
Absolutely.
And having that college degree, saying, I investigated this fire. This is how and why I came to the determination of what I did. And this is my background that allowed me to do that. That's where the degree in, the degree really comes in handy.
Absolutely. I definitely get that part. But so you didn't have to go through academy?
Not for the fire marshaling side.
Okay. For that job that you got as a fire marshal, for that job, you didn't need academy.
Correct.
So you didn't fight physical fire. You weren't doing anything physically. You were doing more of the investigation.
Correct.
Okay.
And that job was for a rural town, so we were the only paid staff. So if we were around, we responded to the fires. I threw my gear on. I went in, did what I had to do, and then investigated it afterwards.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yep. So we still got to
trust you without the training on that, right?
I had all the fire training still. So
I see.
It's a multi-role, multi-function position, really.
So it's like the certificates that you've gained take place of the academy. Like they know you're certified to do this. Put your equipment on, know how to use the equipment, blah, blah, blah.
And the same classes that I take as a volunteer are the same classes that they put you through at the academy.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. So the certifications for paid and volunteer are exactly the same.
I see.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. There's a standard that has to be met, and everybody meets that standard. So
awesome.
Yeah. And there's different roles in different ways. Obviously you could go that municipal testing route.
Mm-hmm.
You get hired as a probationary firefighter. You go through the academy. You're in Fire 1, Fire 2, EMT, auto extrication, sometimes a couple little extra ones. Graduate the academy, go into the fire department, and start working your way in. As a probie. Then you get off probationary status, and then you get your full rank as firefighter. Then from there you can go lieutenant. You can even, you would go usually driver, then you would go lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, or you can move into the fire marshaling side and, go through that.
For someone that goes to the academy to become a fire marshal, most likely it's a certificate or another class and test?
So they wouldn't go to the academy for fire marshal.
I mean, everybody goes to the academy, but after you're a firefighter and you want to switch over to investigations, it's a certificate, it's a class, it's a test?
You would apply to the job from within usually.
I see.
And then they'll say, okay, yes, we're going to hire you as a fire marshal now. You go to the state class and you get their certifications. And then you usually go through your advanced fire school. Excuse me. And then you would be certified as what would be in Connecticut a full cert fire marshal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you got the job. It's tough in the beginning. You got some guys that are taking you under their wing. Yeah. And what comes next?
So I ended up after that position, I ended up leaving there.
How long were you there?
I was there for about 2.5 years, I think.
Nice.
Yep. It just like I said, there was some political differences there. And like I said, it was a rough start in how I handled some situations. which probably could have been handled. I think nowadays, knowing what I know now, I would have handled much differently, obviously. I think growing up, we all go through that. And it's a learning curve.
Everything is learning.
Yeah. So I parted ways with them. And a few months later after that, I was hired by Sikorsky Aircraft in Stratford as a fireman there.
Nice.
So that was, I loved that job. That was
aircraft. So it's what is it, like an airport?
They build the Black Hawk helicopters.
Oh, nice. So what are you doing there?
So that's a plant protection job. So it's kind of, it's not your regular firefighting job, because you're doing so much more, but you're also not doing so much more because if you're doing your job really well, it's all about prevention. So then if everybody's working together as a unit and doing their jobs well, then there aren't fires. But because you're doing your job well, there aren't fires. So it's kind of a unique atmosphere of you're there for protection. You do everything you do in a city, EMS calls, fire calls, all sorts of stuff. It's just on a smaller scale. You're there in case a helicopter goes down because they're obviously testing them and putting them through the steps that they need to. So you're there for that as well. And you're making sure that the plant's up to code as well. So you're doing your own inspections while you're walking through the plant and everything and reporting back, and they go back and fix everything that needs to, that you spot usually. And, that's all part of keeping the employees safe, keeping the plant safe, keeping it an operation, and, making sure nothing bad happens.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So how'd that job go? You liked it?
Yeah, no, it was a great job. We had every toy you can imagine as a fireman. You had the big aircraft trucks. We had boats. I mean, it was just it was a fun environment, and it was such a unique
aircraft truck?
So, when you go to the airport and you see those really big fire trucks out there, that's what we call an aircraft truck or aircraft rescue firefighting. So, yeah.
Very nice. So what happened there? You left?
Yeah. So my injury, excuse me, my injury caught up to me. And the doctors, the surgeons told me this: you can go out and live your life, and we'll see you back in 10 years, or you can take it easy, and we'll see you back in like 15 to 20. Me being me, I went out and lived my life. I like to hike. I like to rock climb. I like to be outside. I'm not going to slow down. So I started having some issues. I forgot what year it was. I think 2016, mid 2016, I started having some issues getting around. I would just, walk around the plant like I would every day, or walk around the flight field. And I was like, man, I'm just in way more pain afterwards than I should be. So I went back to the surgeon, and they said, you have a broken bone spur. You have some other issues going on too. So we were going to do a total ankle replacement, but workers' comp said no, go in, debridement, flex his ankle while he's under anesthesia, because it hadn't flexed in in 10 years at that point. It was fused. Flex the ankle, get rid of the bone spurs, and let him recover. So I guess however they did the surgery, when they did it, they hit the nerve in the back of my knee for the nerve block, and it created complex regional pain syndrome, which they say is more painful than pregnancy. And the only way I can describe it is, so if you take a snake and you set that snake on fire, you turn it into a knife, and you electrify it, and it's just moving through your foot like that. The pain, it was undescribable. I had multiple trips back to the ER. Took them too long to diagnose it. Not to anybody's fault, that was just kind of the way things happened. It wasn't malpractice. It's just sometimes surgery is risky, and there's risks behind it. And this was one of them. Would I ever do a nerve block again? No, but, and I haven't since, but it's just kind of the way things progressed. So it took them too long to diagnose it. And then once they did, it was like heavy painkillers to get through that, multiple trips,
back to drugs,
injections. Yeah. And I stayed sober through all that, actually.
But I mean, that painkiller, supposedly it's
right.
It's a killer, outside of the pain.
Right. Right. Exactly. It does, it does feel good, but, right. They do their job. They work. Yeah. They take it all away. But I did not relapse over any of that, actually. Good. Yeah. Not through the pain. I did have a relapse. So I got sober initially March 24th, 2006. That was my original sobriety date.
So within these 10 years, nothing.
Yeah.
Not even a drink of anything.
Nothing.
Nice.
Yeah. And at the time of the surgery, I was sober, went through all that pain, went through all the pain meds and everything. Still, you kind of look at it as like, I feel like a lot of people in sobriety get so nervous about that stuff. Mm-hmm. And obviously so. But at the end of the day, it's a medication. I have to take this medication because I didn't get sober to live in this much pain either. So I know some people are like, I don't take painkillers. I'm like, no, if I'm having a surgery, I'm taking them. Like,
if you need it, you need it. Yeah. It's not for a headache.
Yeah, exactly. So they started doing all these crazy injections to calm the nerves down and everything. And slowly I got better, got to the point where like I couldn't put a sock on because the foot was so sensitive, but I could like hold my breath, grip my teeth, bear down and slam my foot into a shoe. And then progress from there and eventually be able to put a sock on and kind of progress. But it was a long recovery process and nothing went well. And I was at the end of it after PT and everything, I was no better than I was when I started. If anything, I was probably worse off. It was so long, the process. My dad he came down for like a couple of weeks to take care of me during the process. And I was supposed to go back to my apartment afterwards, but we stopped at the firehouse. And I sat on the couch for a little while. We were like, why don't we just spend a couple nights here? Because I lived on the 3rd floor at the time. The stairwells were too wide. I would have to like push myself up and everything. But all that pain started. And it was like, I couldn't move. I couldn't go back, like nothing. So I ended up getting out of my lease from the room I was renting at the time with a couple, and moving into the firehouse because the narrow stairways, it was easier to get up and down the stairs.
That's nice. A firehouse.
It was, yeah. And it was, it's a volunteer firehouse. So they allowed me to do that and everything, which I'm really eternally grateful for. It's like, where else do you go? You
don't hear that anywhere. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yep. But at the same time, like there's just such a lack of privacy. Like you just can't get away from anybody. And there's like, you may have your own room, but there's nowhere to really decompress from all that. So, that definitely wore on me heavily being there like that, for extended amount of time. I don't even think for far too long, I could even move off the couch. It was a while to be able to get up into the bunk room. I couldn't move. I was in so much pain. Just anything made that nerve pain so much worse. But once we got everything calmed down and everything, it was easier to get around. Things were a little bit easier. But it was a struggle to kind of figure out, like, how do we get moving again? And what do we do? And, workers' comp was in the air about stuff. The doctors were in the air. They weren't too sure what to do. So I tried a brace. And at that point I had put on a lot of weight from depression.
Not being active. Right.
Not being active. Pizza and ice cream diet doesn't work well either. Yeah. Yeah. So I put on a lot of weight. And I remember sitting in my room one night and I was like, I looked down and I saw stretch marks on my legs. And I was like, no, this is not who I am. So I made the decision right then and there, like, I'm going to get back to taking care of myself. I started smoking again. I'm like, we're going to stop smoking, which, it's funny how things work out. I wanted to stop smoking, but it's like, how do you stop smoking? Because that's so tough. And I ended up coming down with pneumonia.
What was it? Cigarettes you were smoking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you got pneumonia.
Yeah. So then I couldn't even look at a cigarette without going to the hospital for a breathing treatment. So quitting smoking was pretty easily, actually, because I just couldn't. And then since then, excuse my cough, I just got over bronchitis like a few months ago.
You gotta have some water.
My breathing is just trying to get it back to like normal has been, I don't know why, some sort of a struggle, but we're getting better. So, but yeah, so back to the firehouse and living there and everything. The doctors couldn't figure out what to do. So there's this device out there. There's a couple of different manufacturers out there. They're called limb salvaging devices. So I went and I tried that.
What is that?
So it's essentially a beefed up, and forgive me, I forget what the term is, but it's called an AFO. And it's a type of a brace, and it goes, all the way down, covers your whole foot, comes up your leg to just below your knee. And it operates as an external prosthetic. It gives you that support. And it worked really, really great for 6 months. I was really excited about it. But between the weight loss and the atrophy of the calf muscle, which was natural for using that device, it stopped working. It didn't fit right anymore. And they couldn't get it to where it needed to. So I was able to get back to work for 6 months during that point.
Wow.
Yeah. But it stopped working. So back to light duty, back into the dispatch center. And it's kind of like, what do we do next? And, I had initially wanted the total ankle replacement. So the surgeon was like, well, you're a few years older now from when we did the surgery. We did that debridement that workers' comp wanted. It obviously didn't work. He goes, I think I can get you into the total ankle replacement now. So I was like, great, let's do that. That's going to let me get back to work. So we went ahead and we got that scheduled, and we did that, and things were going great. I didn't get too much range of motion back. The Achilles tendon had really not flexed in a very long time. So I didn't get much range of motion out of it, but I did get some. And then going through the rehab process, and started having pain in the foot. And everybody was like, well, it's probably soft tissue. Let's get you in for an injection. And I'm like, it's not soft tissue. They're like, yeah, it's definitely soft tissue. The injection will help. I'm like, I know this pain. It's not soft tissue. It's something else. But we'll humor you. So we go in, and I go to the surgeon. We've never done an x-ray of the entire foot. Can we do an x-ray of the entire foot? And he's like, yeah, let's do that. So he comes back after they x-ray. This is Halloween of 2018. And he goes, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. He's like, you can't be a fireman anymore. I'm like, what? This is what I've set my whole life up for. Like, what do you mean I can't be a fireman anymore? And he goes, your entire foot is arthritic. And this is normal for having a fused ankle for 10 years and being very active. And I'm just like, wow, like, what do I do now? My life's been set up for firefighting, for fire marshaling, for being very active and mobile. And now I can't. So it's like, now what? So I knew I'd end up losing my job at Sikorsky because I couldn't be a fire marshal anymore. A firefighter anymore. I couldn't meet the job requirements. So that's what ended up happening. My parents had a place in South Carolina where they retired. They said, we have an extra room here. At the time I had no bills. I had no, debt. So it was like, that's a free room. And, being on disability and comp and everything, one little thing goes wrong and they're like, no benefits now. So like, that's always a big fear of like, what's going to happen at this point if my benefits get pulled. So it made sense for me to go to my parents because it was free room, free board, roof over my head, food in my belly. And when I was ready, if I needed help fueling the tank to get to job interviews. So we did that. I did that. I moved. I've never lived outside of Connecticut my whole life at the time. So I made the decision. I'm moving to South Carolina.
How was that move? You liked it? I figured though the weather's decent, right?
Yeah. No, I remain open. Like whatever can happen. I'm not against it. I'm not, for it. I miss Connecticut. It's where I'm born and raised. I love it up here. But, it's kind of like, what do you do? This is like a new life, Um, but I was open to the idea of just loving it. Like, this could be a whole new opportunity for me. So I took that opportunity and moved down there. And, it was a little nerve wracking, but I didn't second guess the decision for some reason. It was just right at the moment. So
It
that's
all
what I
made
did.
sense.
Yeah. And it was a good decision. I got connected with a really good doctor down there. While I was down there, I ended up meeting a wonderful woman who opened my eyes to kind of viewing life even more differently than I've viewed it. And kind of realized that there are other things out there for me than just firefighting, because that's all I had known, the hindsight's 2020 looking back on it. If I could have done my degree, I would have still gone that route, but I think maybe I would have made like in fire investigation my minor and maybe psychology my major or something else that would have set me up for should something like this ever happen. Being a fireman's a young man's job.
Yeah.
And you get hurt and injuries catch up to you years later, obviously. So, looking back on it, yeah, I wish I had set myself up a little bit better to go different routes, given this injury and everything. So that would be like my biggest advice to any firefighter is always have a backup plan. Like what can you do if firefighting doesn't work out for some reason? I got down there and the first thing I did was, I got my fire marshaling certification for down there.
Okay.
This way, if I wanted to go back that route, I could start working towards that. Excuse me. So I did that. Got connected with a really great surgeon. And this was over COVID now at this point. And I went to him and he did some more imagery. And it turned out that there was a random bone growing behind the Achilles tendon. There was arthritis throughout the entire ankle. And some other issues as well. And, he was telling me all this information and, our goal was to kind of like go in, fuse everything up as much as we could, get me back into the AFO and get me back on the road. And, he says, he says to me, he goes, I can fix some of these issues, but I can't fix all of them. And, I was like, oh, okay. He says to me, he goes, what do you want to do? He goes, I don't know what to do about this bone growing behind the Achilles tendon. This is like a risky surgery. This is a really good like surgeon. Like, he knows what he's doing. Really good, surgical group too. Orthopedic surgical group, Ortho Carolina. And he goes, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. You're the surgeon. That's what I'm here for.
He's asking you what you
Yeah. Like, you're the surgeon, buddy. You tell me. That's what I'm here for. And he's like, I don't know, man. What do you got? And I'm like, I don't know. So I turned to him and I'm like, it's been a more real, I've been dealing with this injury at the time for like 17 years. Sometimes it just gets to a point where it's like, just cut the dang thing off and let me get back on the road, And for years, people and friends were like, no, don't do that. Medical advances are coming and everything like that. And so I said to him, it's been a more and more real conversation over the years now of like, is amputation the way to go? And that's when he sat down and took off his mask. And I was like, oh, we're going this road today, like right now. So he's like, I think that's your best bet. He's like, if you actually want to like get back up and get back going, he goes, I think that's your best bet. He goes, but let me take your case and all this stuff. And we have a medical roundtable. I forgot what it's called. He goes, but I'll present your case to everybody in the group. And if anybody, maybe someone else will have a better idea. So that's what he did. And everybody essentially said the same thing of like, yeah, if he wants to get back up and get back going, you got to take the leg. And one surgeon even said, yeah, you could fix some of these issues, but he'll still be back in this place in less than 5 years. So why go through all that pain just to be back here in less than 5 years.
Oh man, that is wild.
Yeah.
And this is like more than half of your life.
Yeah.
17 years at that point is more than half of your life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The injury happened when I was 20. So
You mentioned in South Carolina you met a woman. Was this like a romantic?
yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yep. I was
Dating must have been tough this whole time too.
yeah, because it's like you don't have a job. So you like, I was like, do I really want to date? Because like I don't have a job, and like obviously that's a big thing, but like I'm driven, I'm outgoing, like I am so ready for more in my life. One of my biggest hashtags that I use on my Instagram is hashtag more to come, because there's always more to come. Like we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what the next day holds, and there's always something more out there. So for me, like, I was like, I'm a driven person. Like if I want to go do something, I go do it. I put my mind to it. I got down here, I got all these certifications. So I'm like, but I have that hesitation of like, who's going to want me without a job? Like I can't provide, like, what am I to somebody besides a burden at this point? But I did decide to, start dating and see what was out there and everything. And, that's where I met her.
Still together?
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And she changed my life. She's kind of, I was paying stuff down. She was like, you pay your stuff down a little bit more and your credit's going to go through the roof. And it did. To the point where I was able to buy a piece of property for myself in South Carolina.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then, it was raw land, and we started working on clearing it. And that's where she's really big with animals and working with animals. And, I've loved animals my entire life. I've always been the kid that showed up with stray animals or walking through the woods and, finding a turkey and bringing it home. And like, you can't bring this turkey home. Like it belongs somewhere. Please put it back. But up until meeting her, I was actually deathly afraid of spiders, to the point where like they would chase me around with spiders at work because they thought it was funny. But here I am like running into the tail rotor of a Blackhawk spinning up, and they're like yelling at me to turn around. And I think they're still chasing me, and I'm not paying attention. And it's like, oh God, turn around. Just firehouse antics,
How'd you get over the spider fear?
She helped me actually.
Arachnophobia.
She educated me on friendly spiders and how most spiders are friendly. And, I've done my own education too. And, now it's to the point where I was like, if you want to get a pet spider, don't start me in on a tarantula, but I don't mind a little trapdoor spider, something like that. I'm okay.
I was the same way my whole life. I to this day, I'm still a little, but petrified as a kid.
Yeah.
I think it's just the stories I hear. One bite will kill you. The small ones, it's like a big fear. They're like venomous or whatever the case, or they carry whatever.
Right.
But then I got older and I learned that they eat bugs.
Yeah.
So I'm like, when I see them in my house, I don't kill them anymore. Now I just leave them.
Yep. I used to say, Terminex was my best friend. They're always welcome in my house. But now I'm like, no, that spider can stay.
Yeah.
Like he can hang out.
Absolutely.
You get a name, you get to stay. If we see flies, put them in your web for you.
I don't like bugs, so let the spiders do what God put them here for, right?
Yeah. But I would have these night terrors from my trauma and everything, where I would be, the sleep paralysis and everything. And I'm literally having these massive spiders, like coming down and like stabbing me through the chest, and like bugs coming out from everywhere and just all over me. So like, it was a really hard thing to get over because I've got this going on in my sleep as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't even escape it.
No. But now it's to the point where like, I like bugs and I like spiders because I know what they do. And, pet bugs and everything, like the roly-polies, you learn about them and everything, what they actually do for the environment. It's like,
what do they do? I don't know.
So they're nature's cleanup.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Bottom feeders.
So they'll hide under the logs and everything and start burrowing. And it's amazing how clean. You wouldn't think they're clean, right? Because you roll them back and they're in dirt and they're crawling all over the place, but they're amazingly clean and so cool and so unique how they work. And their colorings are cool. So yeah, I've really turned a page on that as well. Yeah.
Nice.
And then, we started helping animals more and more, started a farm rescue. So taking animals that were sick, or not getting care the way they needed, or somebody was trying to get out of it. And, you grow attached to these animals and you just want them to go like the best home possible. And usually that ends up being us, because we take care of them and, get everybody back to health that we can. And, it's sad because you can't help everybody. Right. And at the same time, you also see some really sick cases come through and you can only do so much and they're already so far gone and you pour so much energy and effort into an animal. And, it's sad when you lose somebody, because they're usually the sweetest ones. They need the most amount of help.
Yeah.
And they just, some of them don't turn around. And it's so tough, but it's what makes it easy and what makes it worth doing is seeing animals that do turn around and seeing how they go from being on death's door to thriving, or an older animal that somebody doesn't want anymore. They've used for their breeding. And it's like, well, it's useless to them, but to me, it's a life, it's an energy, and bring them to the farm. They get to hang out and do their own thing and not be bred anymore and kind of live their life and just have a great experience at the end of their life.
Have you noticed the correlation between the injured animals and you?
Yeah. I actually ended up with a 3-legged goat too. I mean, I can't say no.
There you go, of course. But it's like, it's funny how life works.
Yeah.
You're compassionate for these animals and it's you.
Yeah.
You needed help sometimes.
Right.
And you are the help to these animals.
And once you get these animals too, like there's no days off.
Yeah.
Like they need care 24/7, whether it's bringing them food, making sure they've got water, making sure their hooves are done, like whatever they may need, like you're there to take care of them. So, now you have this amputation that can very well slow me down, but I need to take care of my animals. They need care. So it doesn't matter how much pain I'm in. It doesn't matter what's going on with my leg. It doesn't matter if my leg isn't working. I need to be present and I need to be available. And I need to push myself through whatever. If something's not fitting right, I get a new socket, If I get a sore, I'm going to have to push through that. And I'm going to have to find ways to make it more manageable for myself while we get the new fit worked out. Because I still need to be out there. They still need that water. They still need that food.
Absolutely.
And some days it's a lot tougher. And some days it's just natural. I mean, most days with a good fitting socket, if my pants are down, I forget I have an amputation. Wow. That's how well I get around.
Amazing. Yeah. Let's get back to the surgeon.
Yeah.
He said he's going to have a meeting with, I guess, a room of doctors and surgeons and then get back to you.
Yep. So they determined that the amputation was the best course of action for me.
How'd that feel? You feel relieved or disappointed?
Relieved, excited.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, at this point, 17 years I've been dealing with this.
You're done with it.
I'm over it. I'm done. I'm just so tired of at the time I was on my first date. We went out. We did what did we do? We went up to a drive-through zoo in North Carolina, and that was just a blast. It was actually a really great time. Her daughter came along and it was a really good time, but she was like, we still had time afterwards. So I was like, you want to go for a walk somewhere? I was like, yeah, but I hate to say this. I'm going to have to get my knee scooter. Cause if I were walking anywhere or doing anything, the pain was so bad. I really couldn't get around. So I had this beefed up knee scooter, it's knee rover, but it's got like bike tires on it. Not like big ones, but they're about that big around. So, and it's got shock absorbers and everything. So, those regular medical knee scooters that you get after a surgery, they're great. But if you're outside and you hit a small pebble, like you're stopping immediately and going, over the handlebars on the thing. So I found this one and it really improved my mobility. And to me, it always felt like it was always, what's the right word? I guess embarrassing, because that's not me, and it made me feel handicapped.
Absolutely.
But there's lessons behind everything, obviously. So I had to be humbled, and that's how I got around. And, I would take this thing on like walking trails and all sorts of stuff. And people were always like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And that always made me feel good and reassured that this is actually kind of cool, So the first date, I had to go get my knee scooter. And
This is after the surgery?
this is before the surgery.
Before the surgery,
That's how
okay.
rough things were. That
Yeah.
I was 24/7 on this knee scooter.
Yeah.
So when the surgery came around, it was like, this, I can get back to normal now.
Yep.
Um,
Tell us about that process. Like waking up from the surgery, you're excited to move forward and get the process going.
Yep.
Because I assume it's a long process trying to size you up and everything for the prosthetic.
It is. And there's no way to know what things are going to be like, right? You can talk to as many people as you want to beforehand. You could get all the information, which I did. I got connected in with the Amputee Coalition. They hooked me up with somebody who was similar to me, who had been through some similar stuff, which is really great. I recommend them for all amputees.
Nice.
And joined the Facebook groups and everything. Started talking to people, started interviewing who I wanted for PT, chose Carolina Sports Clinic in North Carolina. They were phenomenal in helping me get better. And then, interviewing the prosthetist beforehand to make sure that, because it's a really intimate process. They're dealing with their residual limb and everything and trying to get you fit. So you really want to be comfortable with those people. And, I ended up choosing Orthotic and Prosthetic Center out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and they have just been amazing through the whole process. They're kind of that lifeline between you and the doctor, where something's not going right, you call them and they're on the doctor's cell phone. So
what's the process like? You after the surgery, you have to heal first, I'm assuming, and
correct.
then you can get fitted?
Yep. So you go in for the surgery, obviously, and you're just like, okay, this is it. We're doing this. So I'm weird. I asked for my ankle replacement. I wanted to get that back.
Oh,
yeah. I was like, can you get it back? And the surgeon was like, I'll do my best. Let's see what I can do for you. And he was like, I don't know who did that ankle replacement. He goes, but I could not get that thing back and out of the bone for you, so you can't have it. So I was like, darn. I should have gotten the whole leg back, because that would have been cool to make like a lamp crazy out of it and everything.
What's that movie? The Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Christmas Story.
Yeah. So that's why, like, me and my family, like, what if we get the leg back? What could we do with it? Like, we have this like T-Rex, because I don't drink, but my girlfriend has some wine, so we have this like T-Rex head that's a wine holder. Nice. So I was like, oh, we could take the leg and like put it in that. We're just like looking around the house at like all the fun things we could do if I got the leg back, Yeah. So my obviously my big thing was like, you have to maintain a level of humor about everything, because like if you're not laughing, what are you doing in life?
100%.
So yeah, I was just having fun with like the possibilities of what we could do up to the surgery and everything like that. So yeah, the day of surgery rolls around, she brings me up and everything, and I was in recovery for, I think they only kept me in the hospital for like 2 days, maybe 3 days. It was during COVID. So they were like, we really want to get you out as soon as possible.
Oh yeah.
The pain was pretty manageable. And it was so weird, because like, excuse me, there's ups and downs through the process. Very high highs, low lows.
Pain is gone though.
The nerve pain kind of kicked back up, but that's to be expected when they do the amputation. Little graphic warning here. So if you want to stop watching for a couple of minutes, this is that point, or to skip through. So I'll give everybody a minute with that. But what they do is they open you up and they stretch the nerves out, and then they cut the nerves and they snap back in. And then they go ahead and they do the rest. They leave part of the calf muscle to flip up and around as padding. So the nerves are going through a major trauma, and that's painful. I would say the orthopedic pain, the actual bone pain, the muscular pain, no different than any other surgery. But it's the nerves that are rough. So that took a little while to calm down, but I had been talking with amputees beforehand. So I expected that. They kind of told me, they said, one day you're going to wake up and it's just going to be easier. But the pain started ramping up and that nerve pain. It's like, I'm begging the surgeons and the doctors for more pain meds. And they're like, no. And I'm like, I'm in so much pain right now. Like, please stop treating me like a drug addict. I mean, yes, I am, but like, I don't have that problem. Like, I need to be medicated. This pain it's rough. It's unbearable. Like, I can't sleep. They're like, oh, we'll give you some antihistamines so you can sleep. And I'm like, no, like, this is so painful. I was actually to a point where I was going to go to the hospital one night, but my girlfriend was coming to pick me up. So I was like, I'd rather see her than go sit in the hospital all night. So, in that morning I woke up and the pain was just gone. And I'm like, I don't trust this.
I don't trust this.
No. I know how this pain works. Like, I don't know why it's gone, but it's gone. Or it's at least manageable. Let me say it's manageable. But it stayed that way, you know? And it just kept getting better and better and better to the point where there's no nerve pain anymore.
That's why the doctors are like, just give it some time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, okay, like, all right, start to trust this lack of pain now. You know, still in a wheelchair at this point. I had my leg up on a thing in a wheelchair, which made it a lot easier to get around. And there's ways to get wheelchairs in and out of your vehicles so you can get that independence and everything. But they can't start the real process. So I was in a, I guess it's a boot. It's called a straightener. Keeps your legs straight. And I kept that thing as tight as I could, because otherwise you can develop what's called a contracture, where your leg's not permanently straight anymore. And that makes working with a prosthetic really difficult when they have to overcome that. So my leg can go as straight as it needs to go. Because I guess after an amputation, like, your leg kind of naturally wants to like curl back. And that's where that contracture develops. And they put me in that straightener, which really allowed me to not have to deal with that. Then they wait for the incision to heal up. And once that incision's healed up, then they start the process. You're in something called a shrinker beforehand. So your limb shrinks down. Obviously, it's a huge surgery. Like, there's a lot of swelling. So they put you in this shrinker sock it's a nylon sock, and they get tighter. There's different stages, and they get tighter and tighter and tighter. As you're healing up, and once all that's done, then they start getting you casted for everything, and they get you into temporary sockets. And so after I was healed up, they got me in my temporary socket. I went through a bunch of different systems, because there's not just one system out there. So the system I use is a pin and lock. So I have this pin on the end here, and it's ribbed, and it goes into my socket and it locks in. It clicks in for each rib.
Okay, good.
And then there's a little button here
to release
it.
Nice.
And for me, that's the best system, because it allows me to do all these cutouts here, because these are all sensitive. I'll show the camera, I guess, too. These are all sensitive spots for me, especially back in through here. I'll get sores like crazy. I just can't avoid them. My skin, whatever, it's just my own sensitivity. So they can cut all that out and then do reliefs in this rubber here, this soft rubber, and that fixed everything. But it was a struggle to get to that point, because they really wanted me in the vacuum system, which is a great system. It's a wonderful system. It's awesome. And that works through two different systems. So you have your suction. So as you go in, you push out all the air, and then you have a vacuum to remove the rest of the air.
I see.
But my leg it didn't like the pressure against it from the socket. So I was getting sores to the point where I had to do like 3 months back in a wheelchair.
Wow.
Yeah, to let the sores heal up, because I kept pushing. Like, I want to be mobile.
Yeah.
You know, I took right to it as soon as I was in a socket. I took right to it, and there was no stopping me, except for when I would get these sores that were unmanageable. So one day, yeah, they were like, well, let's just make these cutouts. And how does it feel? And I was like, feels amazing. They're like, okay, pin and lock then. And that's my system.
Perfect.
Yeah. I like the cool systems with the vacuums and the suction and everything, but doing the deep knee bends for like squats or being a firefighter and having to get on your hands and knees, you can lose suction. And that, to me, that's a problem to me.
Absolutely.
I know other amputees who are firefighters who are in that system. And you can even, you put things over it too. So you have what's called I forgot what it's called because I don't use it, but there's a liner. Essentially, I would roll my liner down and expose the silicone. And there's a liner that's attached to this that when my leg is in it, it would wrap up and over and seal around the silicone, giving you an even better seal. But I was always getting holes in mine and it was always breaking and not maintaining. So, but other amputees use it and they do great. So it's really like what works for you as an amputee and finding that process, which again, that's a process in and of itself. And, it's the highs, you're like, yes, something works. And then like a few days go by of using it. And it's like, wow, this does not work at all. So that's when you go into like the lows sometimes, because it's like nothing is working. Like, is anything ever going to work? Like, am I ever going to get past this?
What was that process, like a year or two?
I'd say so. Yeah, it was a year or two. So I had to do a revision surgery too.
No way.
Yeah, which is very common.
Okay.
And a lot of amputees kind of was like, don't get worried if you need a revision. So what had happened was my calf muscle was severely atrophied already from using that external prosthetic, from having the ankle that didn't flex. There wasn't much of a calf muscle there. So what had happened, I guess, was, when they flip it, I'll do a graphic warning again, give people some time. If they want to pause it or skip forward, do that now. When they flip the calf muscle up and around, my calf muscle kind of deteriorated. So you have your tibia running down in your talus on this side. So the calf muscle kind of deteriorated and split between the two bones. And combined with how active I was and the atrophy of the muscle and how fast I shrank down, there was a lot of excess skin. So they sent me into a plastic surgeon to tighten up that skin, take off the excess skin. And that's when they found that the calf muscle had split. So they ordered a piece of cow tissue, which I guess is the strongest tissue you can get. And they put that in between the tibia and the talus, and it fixed everything.
Awesome.
So I am also part cow.
Check you out.
Yeah.
You lost some human, gained some cow.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes I find myself like mooing in my sleep. And the desire to urge of grazing and eating grass is just impeccable. I can't deny it. So
I like that.
That's a joke, by the way. I don't eat grass.
Oh, not even wheatgrass?
Yeah.
I thought you were like That's great. So what's life afterwards? You got the right fitting, everything is working properly. I'm assuming it's like physical therapy type of stuff?
Yeah, a lot of physical therapy and a lot of just getting out and just moving. Like for me, I was so excited for this, and that even the prosthetist was really impressed. I took to the leg the day I got it. I walked out of there like a normal person.
Nice.
I trusted it. This is something that I wanted. I was so excited to get my life back, get mobility back, get back to hiking and doing anything I wanted to do. So from there, it was just, a lot of figuring out the right system for me, a lot of working with the PT and building up that strength because, even before the injury, I was big into the gym and everything pretty much my whole life. But it was kind of like I never done really lower body exercises because it was always preserve the ankle, and pushing it to go through like squats, deadlifts, and everything would have been a lot for it and cause unnecessary pain. So it's like now it's like cool, I get to do leg day,
Nice.
But I always thought like I'd hate leg day, you get that pain and that soreness, and it's like,
it sucks.
yeah, I don't want to do who wants to do leg day?
Nobody
I have a
does.
reason to skip leg day. Like I'm going to use it. But now it's like, okay, we get to do leg day, and it's like I fell in love with it. I'm like I switched out how I focus my workouts from mostly upper body stuff to now mostly lower body stuff because it's like I get to do this. I can do this. Like, it's so cool. Like, I should have brought my lifting leg with me today, but I didn't. But it's a BioAdapt leg, and so this leg's great. It's wonderful. It's great for getting around every day, doing everything. If I want to run, I couldn't do all my workouts with it, but it just doesn't have enough flexion in the ankle movement that I need for doing deadlifts and squats. So I have to drive my knee more forward with a system like this, which puts more pressure on your back when you're trying to deadlift 225 or more. So with the BioAdapt system that I use, I get like 21 degrees of flexion in the ankle, and that allows my knees to stay level and allows me to do a deadlift normally.
Nice.
So, and you can see videos of that too on my Instagram, actually, of me doing the deadlifts. Yeah, it's just been having the different legs to do different things and working with workers' comp to help me get these legs, and excuse me, and working with, my prosthetist as well to get these different legs, and then learning how to do the motions. I had to learn how to deadlift with PT and how to squat, and what are certain limits, and how far can I push things, and so it was a really cool experience, of going from being so unmobile to the freedom that a prosthetic gives me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you left South Carolina. You're back in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, I had to. So it was the job market's so crazy nowadays, and I wanted to branch off more into the insurance companies, but the job market's really set up in the best spot for the employer and for the employee who has very specific training, and my background is versatile, but I don't have those certain specific certifications. And I'm competing against other people who have those certifications, but I know how to do that job and I know what I'm looking at, but I just don't have the certifications. So I've been working with a few insurance companies who have been trying to get me in and onboard me because they recognize that I do have the education and the training, but it's not their certifications that they may want. But they have been working with me to keep trying to get me in. So I'm still trying. But I'm very fortunate. I tried going the firefighter route again, and it didn't work out in South Carolina. The money just wasn't there to come in as a new firefighter. And, have to support a family as well. Because at this point in time, I have a son now, a 2-year-old son. Yeah, thank you. He is awesome, and it's like trying to keep up with him and everything my stepdaughter does and everything. And that's another blessing of being an amputee and that was my biggest fear of why I didn't want kids for the longest time. Because it's like, how am I going to chase down my child if they're running towards the road and I can't run because I'm in so much pain? Like, it's just physically impossible to run. Like, that was my biggest fear, was just, what do I do if my kid's running towards the road and I can't stop him or her? So that's what prevented me from having kids for the longest time. And then, I got this taken care of and everything, and it's like, well, I can. And so, we planned out having a kid and everything. And that's when my son came along, and he's been absolutely awesome and exciting and a blessing. And, even a drive, between him and my stepdaughter, drive to do more because she's in the horses and everything. Nice. And so, so we have to keep up the horses and everything. So anyway, with the firefighting thing, it just wasn't enough money, after taxes and benefits, poverty level money down in South Carolina.
Absolutely. The cost of living's lower, the pay is lower.
Right. And a lot of people say that, well, the cost of living is a lot lower, you couldn't make it work. And it's like, it is to a point. Gas is still expensive. Food is still expensive. I bet. And you need a certain amount of money to be able to afford stuff like that. So, vehicle insurance, aging vehicles, new vehicles, like, stuff adds up, and I know what my earning potential is. I know my potential. I deserve a lot more than what I'm making. So it ended up not working out, trying to find different jobs, and getting back into firefighting was a big deal too. Because it's not like up here where, you go take the CPAT at a separate facility, and you get your CPAT. So nobody kind of like, you could hide the amputation if you needed to an employer, but down there, they all do their own individual physical tests.
Oh yeah.
So one way or another, they're finding out you don't have a leg. So I have to address it in interviews. And, obviously you can't confirm it or anything. It's speculation, but some of the statements and some of the questions you get, it's like, I see where this is going.
Absolutely.
Like, have you done the job before? Are you volunteering? Do you know you can do this? And it's like, I wouldn't be here if I couldn't do this job, So I think I went through interviewing and testing with like close to like 14 different departments.
Wow.
They all said no, except for one department that I already kind of had some background with. The chief is an absolutely wonderful, amazing human. And that's Richburg Fire Department in South Carolina. And they gave me an opportunity to prove to everybody that I could do this job as a paid firefighter again.
Nice.
And I am so grateful for that. I met some amazing people working there that I stay in touch with today that I absolutely love and adore, who were completely behind my back, who totally believed in me when nobody else would, that I could do the job. So I went there and I did the job, but
Pay was too low.
Right. Which was unfortunate. So I love it there. I love that place. I would have stayed in a heartbeat if I could have. A lot of people say too, well, you're a fireman, you work for 24 hours and you get 48 hours off, like go get another job. And I did have a second job, but it was still like trying just to get ends meet. And, my son's needing daycare now. So you got that cost thrown in. It's the schedule that we have, a lot of people say, you work 24 hours and you get anywhere from 48 to 72 off, depending on which department you're with. Excuse me. And I think a lot of people, like especially taxpayers, don't quite understand it. It's like, well, you can go get a second job. It's like, well, that schedule was designed with our hearts in mind. So you develop something called hypertension, which is hardening of your arteries and heart issues, doing the job for 20 years, waking up at 3 a.m. and going from, you could be in REM sleep, going from that to 100, to having to save someone's life or put fire out or anything. And, the shot of adrenaline that you get with that, it takes its toll on the body. And they've done the research, they've done the studies that say those 72 hours off in between allow you to decompress mentally, allow you to decompress physically, and allow the effects of that adrenaline to go out of your system. But a lot of guys and girls who are, working this job are having to go out and get second jobs. So now you don't have that ability to let the adrenaline release from your system naturally. You don't have that, if you have a busy night, and who knows what you're going to, where it's just emotionally tough and draining. Now you don't have that decompression from that either. There's a lot of research behind that 24/72 schedule. But when you're having to pick up second jobs or even second full-time firefighting jobs just to get by, that takes its toll on you. And you see it, guys retire, they don't get to retire, or they make it to retirement and they don't have much time left after that.
Absolutely.
It's like, wow, how did
it's too late then.
Right. This person's just gone now.
Yeah.
So there's reasons for all that. And
absolutely
the mental health push and taking care of your mind and your body, so, a lot of people see that and they just don't understand the schedule and,
they don't get it.
Right.
They don't get it.
So I try to educate people when they ask me about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And say like, well, you have all this time off and, you have one busy night, even the 24/48s isn't enough to recover from that. That third day would be like the 24/72s. That's 72 hours off. By the third day, you're back to normal. And now you're fully present at work again. But when you start mixing things in and money and stress, you're not as present as you want to be.
Absolutely.
So
So you're back in Connecticut,
Yeah.
and
Yep. So yeah.
what job you got?
Yep. So I was fortunate enough. Collins Aerospace up in Windsor Locks. They decided to give me an opportunity.
Nice.
And so I'm a fireman there now.
Nice.
Yep. Yep. And it's a really incredible. I love it up there. It's a
perfect.
Yep. It meets what I need, and yeah, I'm
Perfect.
grateful for that. It's things, things work out the way they're supposed to be. My family, they stayed in South Carolina because that's what's best for everybody right now. This way, we can kind of get the money saved up, get things paid off, because, when you go through stuff like this and you're on limited income, the credit card bills, yep. So I'm trying to get all that stuff rebuilt and get paid off and everything. So.
Perfect. You're on the route.
Yeah.
It's been a lifelong journey to get this job.
Yeah.
And keep the job.
Yeah. Keep it. It's been the other thing too, but, it's been awesome with the prosthetic, it's allowed me to do all this and everything, and to be able to get these jobs. And, it's really shown me, people who want to kind of follow that journey with you, who want to walk that path with you, versus the people who are like, I don't know, man, can you really do this?
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's nice to see the people who really believe in me and allow me to shine and, be my true self and everything like that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the goal now? I feel like you should write a book or something. I feel like
I know.
Because you can help so many people.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of like my goal right now is I really enjoy helping people. I really enjoy, still working with animals and everything in any way I can, because they're ones without a voice, and helping people go through difficult situations is really, I love when I can show somebody that there's so much more out there in life. And like, just because you lost a leg, just because you lost a limb, just because you're in a wheelchair now and you weren't, that there's still so much you can do and still so much you can offer. So many people, traumatic things happen, whether it's physically, emotional. I mean, everything at the end is physical, but there's emotional fallout behind it. There's spiritual fallout behind it. So many people get stuck in that rut of like, I'm here now. And you look at it on paper, like born and raised in Connecticut, everything I know is here. I had a full-time job making spectacular money. And all that, I lost all that. I had to leave. I lost my leg. I've got crazy amounts of debt right now that I'm trying to pay off, and like, things build up and there's emotional stress, and I had to leave my son to come back up here to be able to provide for my family. I had to leave my family. I had to leave my farm, like everything I worked so hard to develop. I had to leave. 14 different employers told me no because they didn't believe in me. In the fire service, outside of the fire service, employers didn't believe in me. And I don't think that was because of my amputation, but just because I didn't have exactly what they were looking for, which I don't fault them. I understand that.
Of course.
But at the same time, but I believed in me, and I know I can do it. And if I have to go get that education to show them that I can do it, then I will. But you look at all that on paper and it's like, I should be in a rut of depression.
100%. That's why I feel like you should definitely write a book or something.
Right.
What do you think? Are you thinking book or?
I don't know. I guess I could. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's like cliche, to write a book, but like.
Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Right. Yeah. It's true. I don't know where I'd start the process. There's so much there, like we didn't even touch on some of the trauma that happened. It's like, where do you go? How do you write this book? How do you fit it all? How do you fit a lifetime of overcoming trauma into so many pages, So I don't know. I'd really love to get into public speaking and really get in front of people and, let people see that for themselves, and
absolutely
get the word out there that no matter what you're going through, no matter how bad things seem, like there's always a positive around the corner that you just don't know about yet. And sometimes it does get worse before it gets better, and sometimes it feels like that's just the pattern,
It is.
Life
isn't
right.
perfect and straight.
Right.
It's always
right. And then you
down.
get caught up in these things too. You see everybody else doing so well. And there's
Of
this
course.
stigma of like, that we have to share about how well we're doing. And we don't talk about the hard times and how difficult things get. And it's not easy. I mean, you look at my Instagram and you see me with my leg and it's like, wow, this dude is just always shining and he's always so strong. And that's not the case. I have days where, my past catches up to me in my head and you can't get out of that depression, but like I know it helps me. So I'm like, go to the gym, talk to friends, go outside, get around people. And it's not every day that I want to do that. It's tough. It's really tough.
It's tough for everybody, but you can definitely help a lot of people.
Right. And that's what I want to do. I just, if I can pass that message along of hope and strength and, the whole more to come thing, that's just so important to me because at the end of the day, like that just, maybe I saved a life,
Absolutely.
Maybe somebody saw this and was like, well, if he can do it, like, why can't I?
100%. That's exactly why I think a book or something, even public speaking.
Yeah.
Definitely, you can definitely help a lot of people out there.
Yeah, and that's my goal.
What's your IG handle? Let the people know so they
can.
Yeah,
so it's all underscore and it's spelled out all the way. So it's Jay's Feet on Fire, all underscore, Jay's spelled out, Jays. So you can find me on there. I don't post too often. I should probably post a little bit more than I should. But there's some stuff on there. I try to, plug out some workout stuff, just like cool stuff that I'm doing with a prosthetic. I do have cool prosthetics. I just had a Jurassic Park one made up,
nice.
But it needs an adjustment. So, it's in the shop right now getting adjusted. So I have Old Faithful with me today.
Old Faithful.
Yeah. Yeah. He's torn up a little bit, a little worse for the wear. But this socket's always been good to me. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the great conversation.
Yeah, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure. I was excited for the story. We got a deep dive into everything. Thank you very much for opening up. And thank you to everybody that watched. Peace and love.